Hello, welcome back to the video series on the solution to the mock exam. PQ is 4 cm, QR is 6 cm, RS is 12 cm. Find the value of x. Well, to find the value of x, if we know the value of the entire angle PSR right here, the entire angle PSR, and we know the value of angle QSR, just this in blue. If we know the value of QSR, that means we'll be able to find angle x, because we'll just have to take away QSR from PSR to find the value of x. So how can we find the value of angle PSR? Well, we have the adjacent and the opposite side. The opposite side to this angle PSR is side PR, and that's the sum of 4 centimeters and 6 centimeters. That's 10 centimeters. Then we have the adjacent side, which is SR, to be 12 centimeters. So since we have the opposite and the adjacent side, that means we are going to use tan. So tan PSR is equal to opposite, which is 10 centimeters, all over adjacent, which is 12 centimeters. And that will give me 5/6, which is equivalent to 0.8333 when you leave it at 4 significant figures. That means angle PSR is going to be arctan 0.8333, which is 39.81 degrees if you leave it at 2 decimal places. So now that we know angle PSR, we cannot find our angle x yet, because we don't know what angle to take away from PSR. So let's calculate the value of angle QSR. Well, for angle QSR, you can say that the side opposite to it is just this QR, while the side adjacent to it is still SR. So that means tan QSR is 6 centimeters over 12 centimeters, and that will give me 0.5. That would mean that QSR is arctan 0.5, which is equal to 26.57 degrees if you leave it at 2 decimal places. Now, if the entire angle here, the whole of angle S, the whole of PSR is 39.81, and just QSR is 26.57. That means to find x will be the difference between PSR and QSR, which is 39.81 minus 26.57 degrees, and that is equal to 13.24 degrees. However, the question asked us to find the value of x to the nearest degree, so we are going to approximate 13, and that's 13. We are going to approximate 13.24, and that's equals to 13 degrees. Option D. In this question on bearing and distances, the bearing of a point P from another point Q is 310 degrees. So draw your cardinal point Q, because the question says P from Q. So 90, 180, 270, that would mean that the 310 degrees will be somewhere around here. So this is going to be 40 degrees, because just ask yourself, what value will you add to 270 degrees to become 310 degrees? Because from here to here is 90, to here is 180, to here is 270. So that means the angle required is 40 degrees. This is 310 degrees. Now, if PQ is 200 meters, so this is point P. If PQ is 200 meters, how far west of Q? This is Q, so this is the west of Q. This is west of Q. How far west of Q is P? That means this is the distance we are looking for. Let's represent it with D. So if you make a vertical line you see that it is perpendicular to this. That means we have a right angle triangle. This is point Q, this is point P, this is 200 meters, this is 40 degrees, and this is the distance we are looking for. Now, we are going to use the trig ratio cos because we have the hypotenuse and the adjacent side. So that means cos 40 degrees equals to adjacent, which is D, over hypotenuse, which is 200. That means D equals to 200 multiplied by cos 40 degrees, which is equivalent to 200 multiplied by 0.7660, and that will give us 153.2 meters. So the answer is option C. This next question is also on bearing and distances. Q is 32 kilometers away from P on a bearing of 42 degrees. So we are going to draw a cardinal point for P. So if this is P, so we are going to draw a line going to Q and sketch 0.42 degrees on P, at P. So say this is point Q and this is 0.42 degrees. The distance is 32 kilometers. R is 25 kilometers from P. So at this same point P, we have to sketch 132 degrees. So, well, normally you would have 132 somewhere around here because this is 90 degrees. And you have to add 42 degrees to 90 degrees to become 132 degrees. So this is 132 degrees. That means that at this same point P, I'm going to draw a line going to R. The line is going to be shorter because 25 kilometers is shorter than 32 kilometers. So I'm going to draw it a bit shorter. Then this is point R. Now, the bearing is going to be from here to here, and that's 132 degrees. This bearing is 132 degrees. So if that is 132 degrees, that means the angle here that we sketched right here is also 42 degrees. Now that we know we have two angles that we sketched at P, the question says calculate the bearing of R from Q. That is at point Q here, the line that joins R to Q. So the answer we are looking for is the angle made from the north pole of Q to this line. The angle made from the north pole of Q to this line. That's what the question is asking us. Now, how do we find that? We've not insert the distance between P and R, which is given to be 25 kilometers. Now we have two sides, and let's check if we have an angle. Of course, we have an angle because if you look carefully at point P, you would see that this angle is going to be 48 degrees. So that means the angle at P is going to be 48 degrees plus 42 degrees, and that's 90 degrees. So if I'm to sketch the diagram again, well, R, P, Q, That means right now this is 90 degrees, this is 32 kilometers, and this is 25 kilometers. Now, since what we are looking for is angle Q and not the side QR, we can use the trig ratio tan, because the adjacent side to Q is PQ, and that's 32 kilometers, and the opposite side is PR. So let's represent PQR with theta. That means tan theta is going to be opposite, which is 25 kilometers over 32 kilometers, and that will give us 0.7813. Theta is going to give us tan 0.7813, and that's equal to 38.00 degrees if you want to leave it at 2 decimal place, and let's just call it 38 degrees. Now, we've not yet answered the question, because the question says calculate the bearing of R from Q. So if this is 90 degrees and this is also 90 degrees, how do I find what the angle right here is? Well, it's quite simple. We already know what this angle here is, and that's 48 degrees, because it is alternate to this angle here, to the angle at P. So this is 48 degrees. That means if this is 48 degrees and this is 38 degrees, the angle here is no longer difficult to find. It is simply 90 degrees minus 48 degrees minus 38 degrees, which is 90 minus 86 degrees, and that's 4 degrees. So the bearing of R from Q is going to be this 90 degrees plus this 90 degrees plus the angle here. That's 90 plus 90 degrees plus 4 degrees, and that's 184 degrees. Option B. Another way that you can find the bearing is to take away everything from 360 degrees. Say, for example, this is the angle we are looking for. So that means if we take away the entire angle from here to here, away from 360, we'll get our answer. So since this is 90 degrees, the angle here is 90 degrees, the angle here is 48 degrees, and the angle here is 38 degrees. So if we take away 360 degrees minus 90 minus 48 minus 38, the answer is going to be 184 degrees, just like we calculated. In question 22, we have a ratio. X ratio y is 3:5, y ratio z is 4:7. We are asked to find x ratio y ratio z. Well, in questions like this, there are more than one method to solve this kind of problem, but the simpler, or let me say the one I consider the simplest approach, is to make x and z the subject of the formula in terms of y. What do I mean? We can say that y is the variable that is common to the two ratios. So we are going to express the remaining two variables in terms of y. So x over y is 3/5. That means I will find a way to make x the subject of the formula. 5x is 3y. When I cross multiply, that means x is 3y/5. At the same time, y over z is 4/7. So if I cross multiply, 7y equals to 4z, and I want to make z the subject of the formula. That means z is going to be 7y/4. Now that I have x and z in terms of y, so if I want to rewrite x ratio y ratio z, is going to be x is 3y/5 here, so that's 3y/5. Y will still be y, then z is 7y/4. So if I cancel out y all through, I will have 3/5 ratio 1, because y/1 will give me 1, not 0. ratio 7/4. But we can see that the options given to us are not in fraction form. That means we are going to convert them to whole numbers, and that's quite simple. What's the LCM of the denominators that we have? 5 and 4, the LCM is 20, so multiply all through by 20. That is 20 multiplied by 3/5 ratio 20 multiplied by 1 ratio 20 multiplied by 7/4. So 5 here 1, 5 here 4, 4 times 3 is 12, 12 ratio 20 times 1 is 20, ratio 4 here 1, 4 here 5, 5 times 7 is 35. So the answer is option B, 12 ratio 20 ratio 35. PQR is an equilateral triangle with side 2√3 cm. Calculate its height. Well, for an equilateral triangle, so all sides are equal. 2√3, 2√3, 2√3. Now we want to find the height. That is h. Well, we know that the height is perpendicular to the base, so we can bring out one part of the triangle, 2√3 h, and this side is going to be half of 2√3. 2 here 1, 2 here 1, that's √3 centimeter. So since it is a right angle triangle, we can apply Pythagoras theorem. So h squared plus √3 squared is equal to 2√3 squared. That means h squared plus √9 equals to 4√9. The square of 2 is 4, the square of √3 is √9. So that means h squared plus 3 equals to 4 times 3. H squared plus 3 equals to 12. That means h squared equals to 12 minus 3, which is 9. And h is square root of 9, which is 3 centimeters. Question 24. A messenger was paid 2 naira 50 kobo an hour during normal working hours and 4 naira during overtime. If he received 31 naira for 10 hours work, how many hours are for overtime? This is a simultaneous equation problem because we have two variables involved, which are the normal working hours and the overtime. Let's say let n represent the normal working hours and t represents the overtime. Now that means that per hour he receives 2 naira 50 kobo for normal work, while he receives 4 naira per hour of overtime. So we are told that the total amount he received for 10 hours is 31 naira. That means this 31 naira is the sum of 2 naira 50 kobo multiplied by n and 4 naira multiplied by t. That's how we'll get the 31 naira. And also we are told that he worked for 10 hours to get that 31 naira. That means n plus t equals to 10. So let's say this is equation 1 and this is equation 2. Let me rewrite equation 1. It is still the same as 2.5n plus 4t equals to 31. If we choose to use substitution method, I can make t the subject of the formula in equation 1. That's equation 2 rather. So if I make t the subject of the formula, t is going to be 10 minus n. So I want to substitute into the other equation. So that would mean 2.5n plus 4 multiplied by 10 minus n equals to 31. That's 2.5n plus 40 minus 4n equals to 31. Bringing the like terms together, 2.5n minus 4n equals to 31 minus 40. 2.5n minus 4n is negative 1.5n equals to 31 minus 9. 31 minus 40 is 9. So that means n is going to, 31 minus 40 is negative 9. That means n is going to be minus 9 divided by minus 1.5. And that will give us 6. That means it worked for 6 normal hours. However, the question asked us that how many hours are for overtime. That means t, which is 10 minus n. That means 10 minus 6, which is 4. It worked for 4 hours as overtime. In question 25, we have a circle geometry problem. We're asked to calculate the angle PQR, the angle right here. Well, I can say that this is a cyclic quadrilateral because the vertices Q, P, R, and S are on the circumference of the circle. And at the same time, we can see that the triangle PRS in the circle is an isosceles triangle because in the question we are told that SP and SR is the same, and in fact they've used this sign to denote that they are actually equal. Now, if they are equal, that means I can easily find the 2 other angles in that triangle. But do I need to find it? Of course I need to, because if I'm looking for the angle Q right here, it will be easy for me to find the angle if I know angle S, since they are opposite angles of a cyclic quadrilateral. And I can find angle S with the angle provided for me in the triangle. So since we know that angle SPR is also equals to angle PRS, this angle here is equal to the angle here because they are base angles of isosceles triangle. Now, if they are equal, that means angle SPR is also 50 degrees. So if this is also 50 degrees, that means it is easy for me to find angle PSR. Angle PSR plus angle SPR plus angle PRS is 180 degrees. Angles in a triangle. So PSR that I'm yet to find, PSR plus SPR, which is 50, PRS, which is also 50, plus 180 degrees. That means PSR plus 100 degrees equals to 180 degrees. That means PSR is simply the difference between 180 degrees and 100 degrees. That's 80 degrees. Now that I know PSR to be 80 degrees, now I can easily calculate PQR because angle PQR and angle PSR, they are supplementary. Reason being that they are what? Opposite angles of a cyclic quadrilateral. So that means we can say that angle PQR plus PSR, which is 80 degrees, equals to 180 degrees. That would mean that PQR is 180 degrees minus 80 degrees, and that's 100 degrees. Option C. In this question, we have an inequality. We are asked to solve x minus 4 into brackets x plus 2. So that means x minus, okay, let me just rewrite the question. So we have x, and minus 4 is multiplying what we have in the bracket. So minus 4 times x is minus 4x, and minus 4 times positive 2 is negative 8. Then greater than 8 plus 5x. If I choose to bring all my unknowns to one side, that is x minus 4x, then minus 5x greater than 8 plus 8. The negative 8 on the left hand side will become positive 8 when it's crossing the other side. So x minus 4x is minus 3x, then minus 3x minus 5x is negative 8x greater than 16. So from here, minus 8x greater than 16. anytime we are dividing or multiplying by a negative value in inequalities, the inequality sign is going to change. So minus 8x divided by minus 8 less than 16 over minus 8. So you are not going to write greater than anymore. So this is going to cancel. So 8 here 1, 8 here 2. That means x is less than minus 2, because 2 over minus 1 is also minus 2. So the answer is x less than minus 2, option C.